The bell struck noon like a warning shot. Dust hung over the courthouse square. People stood shoulder to shoulder, hats low, eyes up at the deed table. The auctioneer lifted his gavel. A paper flag with the rail syndicate's mark fluttered on the post. No one spoke. Even the horses held still. Wren Hale walked out of the sun. She was tall and steady, wrapped in a plain black coat too big for the heat. In her right hand she carried a scarred Colt revolver, nickel rubbed thin. One word was cut into the grip: Pike. She reached the table and set the gun down with care, like a tool, not a threat. Then she laid a sealed paper beside it, its red stamp bright against the dust. "I'm Jonah Pike's widow," she said, calm as shade. "This is our license." A murmur rolled over the square. The gavel stopped in midair. Judge Merritt blinked hard. Silas Cray, the rail agent, smiled the way a preacher does when he wants your last coin. "Ma'am," he said, "the man is dead on the county record." Wren showed no change. "The record will do until a better truth stands up." The judge cleared his throat. "This court did name Jonah Pike deceased after the mine fall. The homestead falls to the widow by law." His eyes darted to the railman. "The auction is..." Paused. Boot heels sounded from the back of the crowd. A path opened on its own like grass parting for water. A man stepped through, coat dusty from the trail, face lean, eyes the color of winter sky. He looked at the gun. He looked at the name on the grip. He looked at Wren. "I'm Jonah Pike," he said. Silence hit like a storm wall. Someone dropped a hat. Cray's smile flattened to a line. Wren did not reach for the Colt. She lifted the license instead, turning it so the seal caught the light. "Your father sent for me," she said to Jonah. "He feared your land would be taken after the papers said you were gone. He asked me to stand in your place. I gave him my word." Jonah breathed once, then again, as if learning how. "And you kept it," he said. The windmill creaked. The bell held its tongue. The auction waited on the next breath. Somewhere a horse stamped once and stopped. Judge Merritt found his voice first, though it trembled. "If you are Jonah Pike in the flesh, then the record is wrong," he said. "But the paper naming this woman your widow is stamped by this court. Until the error is cured, the law shields the homestead by her claim." He set the gavel down as if it were hot. Silas Cray took one step forward. His smile did not reach his eyes. "No need to frighten the town," he said. "There's a clean way. We buy the land today at a generous rate. Then once we sort the papers, Mr. Pike can take a tidy sum and ride anywhere he likes. The widow can void the marriage. Easy, quiet, fair." Wren stood still. "The land is not for sale," she said. "Not today. Not after." Jonah watched her like a man at a river crossing. "Judge," he said, voice rough from dust, "if my name is alive, end this sale." The judge's eyes flicked to Cray, then to the crowd. "I cannot undo a death and a marriage in a breath," he said. "Bring proof. Bring witnesses. Bring the ledgers. The court can sit at sunrise." A ripple of talk moved through the square. Cray tipped his hat. "Sunrise suits me," he said, iron under the honey. To his riders at the edge of the crowd he gave a look that meant wait. Wren lifted the Colt, checked the empty wheel, and eased it down again. "We'll bring truth at dawn," she said. Ruth Pike shouldered up to Jonah's side, cheeks bright with shock. "You vanished, and now you walk in like a ghost," she whispered. "You owe me the rest of that story." "I owe you more than that," Jonah said. His gaze slid to Wren. "And I owe my father, too." The bell rang once, not for sale, but for close. Folks broke apart into hushed knots. Some stared at Wren's height and calm. Some stared at Jonah, alive when he should not be. Cray's men drifted toward the livery like wolves that had seen a fence. Wren spoke low. "Riders will test your fences," she said. "We should go to the ranch, set watch, and count what we have." Jonah nodded. "Ruth, saddle 3, he said. "We ride now." The windmill clicked a single tooth as the wind shifted. Dawn felt near, though the sun was still high. They rode until the town lay small behind them and the Pike Ranch rose out of the grass like a low ship. The house was plain clapboard with a porch. The barn sagged at one corner. A windmill turned slowly, its blade stamped with numbers like a clock face. The arroyo beyond was a brown seam through the pasture, dry as bone. Wren swung down first. She walked the yard without hurry, eyes taking the shape of things. "You have neighbors?" she asked. "Half a mile south," Ruth said, dropping saddlebags. "A widow with 3 boys." "Good," Wren said. "Noise travels. We'll make some tonight." Jonah watched her unhitch the bell from the porch hook and tie it with twine to 2 bottlenecks. She strung them across the gate at knee height, then tested the clink with 1 finger. "Riders won't see that at a canter," she said. "They'll feel it and we'll hear." She stepped inside and stopped past the threshold. She kneaded a pinch of flour, then dusted it across the entry floor in a veil. "Footprints tell on a man," she said. "Even brave ones." Jonah leaned on the doorframe. "You've done this before." "I've been chased," Wren answered, simple as weather. Ruth set a kettle, hands shaking from the square. "Who were you before my father found you?" "A cook, mostly. A drover once. A guard on a freight wagon for 2 months that felt like 2 winters." Wren opened the pantry. "Water jars are full." "Half," Jonah said. "We draw from a shallow well. When the creek runs, we pull from there." Wren nodded. "Then we draw now." She handed Ruth a coil of line and took the buckets. "Also count rounds. Count food. Count matches. Fear loses when you count." They worked until the sun leaned low. Wren wedged the back door with a sliver of cedar so it would stick before it opened. She hung a small looking glass to catch the lantern moving outside. She set a steady cup on the table and 3 spoons beside it. Ruth noticed. "Why 1 cup?" "So we share the same water," Wren said. "It keeps voices low." Jonah looked at the colt on the mantel, then at Wren. "What else did my father ask of you?" "To keep you from losing twice," she said. "Land, then heart." The windmill clicked like a clock keeping watch. They ate in the kitchen with coats still on. The stew was thin but hot. Wren sat with her back to the wall where she could see the door and the single window. Ruth set bread between them, then tucked a strand of hair under her kerchief and tried to stop her hands from fidgeting. "Tell it plain," Jonah said. "How did you meet my father?" "In the freight yard at Danner," Wren said. He'd sold 2 steers and bought pipe and seed. He saw men watching him count his change. I stepped closer and those men stepped back. He asked my name. I told him. He said he had a son and a problem and not much time. "What did he pay you?" Ruth asked, not unkind. "A fair $1 and the rest was trust," Wren said. "He said the land carried both your names. He feared a paper would say otherwise if Jonah did not walk back from that mine. He asked me to stand in the door until his son did." Jonah's jaw flexed. "And the gun?" "It was his last letter," Wren said. "He said a Pike should not have to raise a voice when steel can tell it. He pressed the colt into my hand and said the word would be enough if the man was right on the inside." Ruth looked toward the mantel. The nickel looked tired by the lamplight, but the word on the grip kept its shine. "He gave you our name to carry," she said softly. "I carried it to return it," Wren said. And a night bird called out near the windmill. The bottle wire at the gate gave a small, friendly clink, moved by nothing but a gust. All 3 heads turned, then eased again. The house had its nerves, and now so did they. Jonah rose. "I'll walk the fence one time," he said. "Take a lantern and leave it cold," Wren said. "Let your eyes learn the dark. Count 15 between steps. Listen for pebbles you did not move." Ruth tied on her shawl. "I'll go too." Wren shook her head. "Stay here and listen. A house has a voice, learn it. If it changes, call." When they were gone, Wren lifted the colt, checked the empty wheel again, and felt something shift under the grip like a secret waiting for a thumb. She set it down. The door latch clicked. Jonah and Ruth came back in with the quiet of people who knew the house. Ruth's cheeks were pink from the wind. Jonah hung the cold lantern on its nail. Wren was still at the table, the colt lying in front of her like a question. "I heard the wire once," Jonah said. "Only the breeze." "Good," Wren said. "Learn the harmless sounds so the bad ones stand out for you." Ruth saw the gun. "You keep checking it," she said. It shifted under my hand. Wren answered. Like a loose tooth. Ruth stepped closer. She folded a cloth and set the gun on it so the nickel would not scrape. Then she found a screw on the grip and tested it with the tip of a table knife. It turned half a breath. The wooden slab lifted with a sigh. Inside, where no eye would think to look, lay an oilskin rolled tight as a match. Ruth tipped it into her palm. Jonah pulled the lamp nearer, but not too near. Wren nodded once. Ruth unrolled the oilskin. A line of neat writing ran along the edge in Jonah's father's hand. Let her finish what I started. Beneath the words was a small map, a few strokes. A dot for the house, a crooked line for the arroyo, a circle for the windmill. Around the circle numbers 3, 7, 11, 15. Beside them a short mark like a nail head. Jonah frowned. Windmill blades, he said slowly. Each vein has a number stamped in it. I never knew why. Maybe they point when they want to speak, Wren said. Ruth smoothed the oilskin again. There is another mark, she said. Here along the arroyo. 2 short slashes and a cross. Headgate sign, Jonah said. Old ranchers used it on maps when they planned water. But our arroyo has been dry. Dry creeks keep secrets, Wren said. Tomorrow we listen where your father listened. Jonah closed his hand over the oilskin, then gave it to Ruth. You keep it, he said. You see angles I miss. Wren replaced the grip, set the screw, and wiped the colt with a cloth. The house settled, wood ticking after the day's heat. Outside the wind turned the numbered blades. Somewhere off, a horse nickered, and the night held still enough to hear water that was not there. Only memory and a promise. They woke before the sun. The sky was a pale ribbon over the far hills. Wren tied her hair back with a strip of cloth, then took the oilskin from Ruth and tucked it safely inside her coat. Show me the numbers, she said. They walked to the windmill. Dew beaded on the ladder rungs. Each blade showed a small stamp near the hub. 3, 7, 11, 15. Jonah wiped one with his sleeve. My father liked order, he said, but he never spoke of this. Wren looked from the map to the blades and to the breeze. We do what he set up, she said. When the wind turns and a numbered blade faces us, we mark the ground where its shadow points. We joined the marks, they waited. The wind freshened. Blade 3 faced them and held for a breath. Wren placed a stone where the shadow cut the dirt. Minutes later, blade 7 swung through and steadied. Jonah pushed a stick into the soil there. Blade 11 came slowly, then 15. Ruth used her boot heel to score a line between the marks. The line ran like a compass finger toward the arroyo. They followed it across the pasture, past cow tracks and ant mounds. The arroyo bank rose, tangled with brush. Ruth climbed first. Here, she said. 2 short slashes cut into a buried post, thin and old. Beside it, a cross. They pulled brush until their wrists burned. Wren's coat turned brown with dust. At last, wood showed below. Thick planks set tight and iron hinges the color of deep rust. A headgate, Jonah said, voice low with hope and dread. If it opens, the creek returns. If it opens, it tells a second truth, Wren said. That someone closed it. They set a bar through the iron ring and leaned. It groaned like a tired ox. They leaned again. The gate shook, then rose a hand's width. Cold smell rolled up, wet clay, old leaves, trapped months. Again, Wren said. They heaved. The gate yawned. Water surged through, first as a brown tongue, then as a clean sheet. It ran down the arroyo and struck something buried. A metal cough broke the flow. A side pipe showed in the bank, round and new, leading off toward the rail yard. Paper was one shield, Ruth whispered. This is the other. And this one bites, Wren said. They closed the headgate to a slit to keep the rush from tearing banks, then marked the side pipe with a red rag. By midday, the arroyo ran clear. Jonah knelt and let water touch his wrist. He laughed once, a short sound like a thirsty man. We show the judge at dawn, Wren said. Tonight we hold the line. They hauled a cut of pipe loose with fence wire and a pry bar and laid it on the wagon. Ruth tied it down with knots she learned from a peddler's boy. Proof, she said. Heavy and wet. They rode home slowly and quietly. The wind had a colder edge. Clouds stacked in the west. Wren checked the bottle wire at the gate, reset the flour dust by the door, and hung 2 small tin cups behind the back latch so they would kiss if moved. As dusk settled, coyotes talked far off. Lanterns stayed dark. Ruth watched from the bedroom window with a mirror the size of her palm. Jonah waited on the porch with the lantern and a lariat coiled loose. Wren sat in the kitchen with the Colt on the table and a pot of coffee going just enough to smell like company. The wire sang, a fast, sharp clink, then another. Horse breath huffed. Saddle leather creaked. Wren blew out the coffee flame and moved to the porch. 2 riders, Ruth whispered from the window. Maybe 3. One hangs back. Boot light, Wren said. Jonah lifted the lantern glass just enough to catch a toe in the yard. A shadow halted before the gate. Evening, Pike, a voice called, friendly as a borrowed knife. Come talk on the fence. Fence will do the talking, Jonah said. The rider pushed through. His horse struck the bottle line and stumbled. The cups chimed, bright as a bell at noon. Wren fired once low. The soil spat at the man's boot and the horse sat back hard. Another shot tore a cactus pad near the second rider's stirrup. No closer, Wren said. We count to 3, then we count hoof prints. Silas Cray's voice floated from the dark. Test the boards, he said mildly. See if they rattle. They didn't stay to rattle. The riders backed off into the sage. Tin cups quieted. The gate's shadow returned to its still shape. First press, Wren said. They will lean harder at midnight again. Midnight slid over the ranch like a blanket. The coyotes fell quiet. Even the windmill paused between clicks. Wren kept porch watch until the deepest hour, then touched Jonah's sleeve. Your turn, she said. Ruth and I need to see a man who cannot sleep. Ruth tied her kerchief tight. Judge Merritt keeps a room behind his office, she said. He will open to a whisper if it carries trouble. They rode the back trail to town with no lantern. The road shone faintly like a creak of dust. Once hoofbeats sounded far off. Then they faded. Wren kept them to a walk. Let the dark be on our side, she said. The courthouse sat black against the sky. A single light burned in the clerk's office. Ruth led Wren to a side door and tapped a rhythm that once meant deliveries. The door cracked. The judge's face showed in the strip of light, old, drawn, paper-worried eyes. Miss Pike? He breathed. It's past any hour for law. It's the right hour for truth, Ruth said. Open, please, he opened. Wren stepped in last and set her palm to keep it from shutting. She kept her voice low. We found a closed headgate and a fresh pipe clawed into the bank, she said. At dawn we will lay metal on your table. But there is more to set right. Ruth set the license on his desk and pointed to the corner. Your stamp says Jonah was declared dead the day before the mine was searched, she said. Was that a mistake, Judge, or did someone buy your hurry? The judge sagged into his chair. His lips moved, but no words came. At last he nodded once, small and ashamed. I let my hand be guided, he said. Mr. Cray promised the town a depot and a doctor if the Pikes would sign. He said the boy was surely gone. I told myself speed would spare grief. It fed theft, Wren said, calm and hard. Judge Merritt pressed shaking fingers to his temples. There is a ledger, he whispered. In the safe. Names, sums. I did not write them, but I locked them away. If I show it, I will need protection. You will have it, Wren said. Be at the table at sunrise. I will, he said. If I live till sunrise. You will, Ruth said. We are not ghosts, Judge. Dawn seeped into the town like pale milk. The courthouse steps held a small crowd in coats and hats. Word travels faster than a horse, by baker, by blacksmith, by the lady who sweeps her stoop at first light. Wren and Ruth stood at the foot of the steps with the wagon. On the boards lay 3 things: the sealed license, a pipe section wet with creek mud, and the ledger the judge had taken from his safe with hands that would not stop shaking. Judge Merritt came to the door with his collar crooked and his eyes clear. He looked older than last night, but lighter too, like a man who had put down a sack of stones. "This court is open," he said. His voice did not carry far, but it carried true. Jonah rode in from the ranch with the first sun on his shoulders. He tied his horse and came to stand by Wren and Ruth. People moved to make room without knowing they had done it. Silas Cray stepped from the shade of the feed store. Coat neat, boots clean, a fresh smile in place. Wren spoke plainly. "This is the marriage license," she said, tapping the paper. "Stamped by this court when Jonah Pike was declared dead. This is a ledger that shows payments to hurry that stamp." She set a finger on 2 lines and dates. Gasps came like small birds leaving a tree. "And this," she lifted the pipe and set it down so the wood thumped, "was pulled from a hidden line in the arroyo. It runs toward the rail yard. Our headgate was shut to make that line matter." A murmur rose. Some faces turned toward Cray. He did not blink. "A mistake in the bank," he said smoothly. "Anyone can lay pipe. Proof is a slippery fish." Jonah stepped forward. He did not raise his voice. "I am Jonah Pike," he said. "I was not dead. You do not get my father's water or my name." Cray's hand slid near his coat. Wren's Colt was already in her fist. She did not point at his chest. She fired at the ground in front of his boot. Dirt jumped. The crack slapped off the brick like a whip. Cray froze. "No one draws here," Wren said low. "Not today." The town held its breath. The judge lifted his gavel. "Let us proceed," he said, steadier now. "Let us set the record straight." Judge Merritt lifted the ledger so all could see the ink. "These entries match the dates," he said. "Money moved before the mine was searched. That is not sorrow. That is the scheme." He set the book down and looked at Jonah slowly. "Mr. Pike, do you have a witness who saw you alive after the fall?" "The foreman saw me crawl out the side shaft," Jonah said. "He sent me for a doctor. The rain cut the trail and fever took my name. But I walked back." A thin man in a miner's cap raised a hand. "I saw him," he called. "He was gray as ash but breathing." The judge nodded. "The record is wrong," he said. "Jonah Pike lives. The death order is void." He struck the gavel once. The sound was clean. Cray took a step, tried on a new smile, then let it drop. "Set aside your drama," he said. "Pipes cross paths in every town. Who can prove where that slice came from?" Ruth climbed onto the wagon wheel and held up a muddy bolt with a maker's mark. "This head fits the piece we dug," she said. "Same stamp as the crates at your yard. I sweep there 3 mornings a week. You tip poorly." Laughter cracked the tension. Wren did not laugh. She kept the colt low, not hiding it, not crowing. "No harm if you stand easy," she said. Sheriff Albee pushed through the crowd, hat in hand. "Judge, if there's cause, I'll keep Mr. Cray in the lockup while you write." "There is cause," the judge said. "Tampering with water, bribery, fraud upon this court." He signed 2 sheets with a firm hand. "The auction is canceled. The license will be reviewed at noon, but until then it stands." Cray glanced at the exits and found none soft. He lifted his palms. "I am a servant of progress," he said, but no one wanted the sermon. The sheriff took his arm and led him down the steps. Silence stayed, but it was the kind that follows a storm. Jonah turned to Wren. "Paper brought you here," he said, "but I see the person, not the stamp." Wren untied her black kerchief and folded it. "Paper kept a door open," she said. "We can choose what walks through." The bell rang once, a simple note. Birds started to talk. The town exhaled. People drifted off the steps in a hush that felt like fresh snow. The sheriff led Cray across the street and shut him in the lockup with a metal thud. Judge Merritt stacked the papers and breathed into his hands like a man warming stiff fingers. "I will review the license at noon," he said to Wren. "Bring anything else you have. If I put my stamp on a thing, this time it will hold." "We'll bring it," Wren said. A clerk in a neat vest hurried from the rail office, eyes bright and thin. He tipped his hat to no one. "Train from the east is due at 2, he called to any ear. "Company men will want their materials back. Clean up what's loose, boys." His gaze slid to Ruth and snagged there. She stared him down until he looked away. "Cray has wrists in iron," Jonah said, "but his work has legs." Ruth stepped close. His name is Fitch, she said. He keeps the yard lists. He can move men like tabs on paper. Then we set a clock, Wren said. The judge sits at noon. Train at 2. By then, the pipe in our wagon will be in the record and the headgate will be guarded by eyes that do not blink. Sheriff Albee joined them. I can spare 1 deputy, he said. The rest must mind the jail. I don't need a deputy, Ruth said. I need a broom and Mrs. Collier's boys. She cupped her hands and called to the square plain and bold. Neighbors, pike water runs again. If you want the school to open with a sound roof and wet troughs, walk with me to the arroyo and stand. Mrs. Collier stepped forward without asking her boys. The blacksmith wiped his hands and nodded. The baker's wife tied her apron tighter and fell in. Voices rose, not loud but firm. Wren looked to Jonah. You and I visit the yard, she said. We'll take a crate lid with the same maker's mark as our pipe and a book of orders. We will not steal them. We will ask the foreman to tell the truth. Jonah's mouth twitched. Foremen are generous when a crowd is near, he said. They split at the livery. Ruth led a line of townsfolk toward the arroyo, each with a tool or a rope. Wren and Jonah turned for the rail yard, walking side by side like 2 posts set to hold a gate. The wind rose from the west and brought a dry smell that warned of something bigger on the land. The rail yard smelled of coal, tar, and old rain. Chains clinked. Men in canvas coats rolled barrels along skids. A short crane swung slowly, creaking like a tired jaw. Wren and Jonah walked in through the open gate as if they had business, because they did. The foreman met them halfway. He had a sunburnt neck and a watch that ticked loudly. Yard's closed to gawkers, he said. Wren tipped her chin at the stacked pipe. We came for a loan, she said. 1 crate lid and 1 line from your order book. Both carry a mark that matches a piece we pulled from our arroyo. The judge sits at noon. Help us put the right thing on the table. The foreman rubbed his jaw. His eyes slid to the office door where Fitch, the clerk, stood with a ledger tucked tight to his chest. Fitch smiled thin as wire. Company records are private, he called. Truth is public, Wren said. And neighbors remember who played fair. Jonah stepped to the pipe stack. He found a crate with the same maker's stamp as Ruth's bolt and whistled low. This mark, he said, tapping it. We will show it to the court whether you help or not. Helping is kinder. The foreman's jaw worked. Fitch? Fitch shrugged. The book is mine to hold. And the cuffs are mine to use, Sheriff Albee said from the gate. He had followed at a distance and now stepped in, badge dull, eyes clear. The judge asked me to walk the streets until noon. The foreman lifted both hands. No need for irons, he said. He nodded to a boy. Bring a lid with the stamp. Fitch, copy the order line for pipe shipped last month to yard diversion. If it says what it says, that's not on me. Fitch's smile went brittle. There is no such line. There is, the boy blurted. You had me write the words neatly. Color rose in Fitch's cheeks. He walked into the office. Paper rustled. He came out with a scrap and a lid. Wren read the scrap once. Thank you, she said. Fair dealing breathes easier than lies. A gust lifted dust. The crane squealed, then went still. Jonah squinted at the far ridge. Wind's building, he said. Then we move, Wren answered. Storms make cowards brave and brave men careful. They turned for town at a walk. Ruth reached the arroyo with a rope coiled at her waist and a broom over her shoulder. Mrs. Collier's boys ran ahead and whooped at the first shine of water. Men from the blacksmith shop set posts in the soft bank to hold new boards. The baker's wife tied strips of cloth on the rush to mark a safe footing. The headgate showed like a dark mouth half open, water humming through its teeth. Keep it to a steady hand, Ruth called. No floods. No breaks. She checked the red rag tied near the side pipe. It fluttered like a warning flag. If anyone tries that bank, you shout. Back in town, Wren and Jonah crossed the square. Sheriff Albee walked with them. The crate lid under his arm and the scrap in his pocket. Judge sits in 20 minutes, he said. Fitch will squirm until then. A voice drifted from the jail window, smooth, almost gentle. Silas Cray. Sheriff, he said. You have a small office and fewer bullets than talk. Let me sign my bond and I'll be gone by sundown. The town will get its depot. You'll get a new roof. The sheriff did not slow. You'll get a fair trial, he said. That's the only roof I hand out today. Wren felt the breeze turn hot and straight as if the land were breathing out. She looked west. A brown wall rose on the horizon, tall as a church and long as a train. A dust storm pulling sunlight into its gut. Jonah saw it too. That will hit the banks hard, he said. If the headgate is not braced, she'll tear. We split, Wren said. Sheriff, take the lid and the scrap to the judge now. Hold the room. Jonah, with me. The arroyo needs arms. They ran to the livery and threw saddles fast. Hooves bit dirt. The wind sharpened. It brought the smell of iron and far wheat. On the jail porch, the clerk Fitch leaned to whisper through bars. A coin flashed. Cray's smile widened. He did not need open doors to move pieces. At the arroyo, Ruth had a line of neighbors passing rocks hand to hand to weigh the gate. Board there, she said, pointing, voice steady. Tie the rope to that post. Don't step where the bank hollows. Wren and Jonah slid from their horses and took places in the chain. The front of the storm ate the sky. The sun went the color of an old penny. Air pressed down on the skin. Hold, Wren said. Bend your knees, breathe. When it hits, we lean together. The storm hit like a train with no whistle. Sand hammered hats and teeth. The sky turned to rust. The headgate shuddered, wood crying under the force. Ruth braced a post with her shoulder and yelled, Lines tight. Mrs. Collier's boys ducked behind the boards and handed up stones like ammo. Wren planted her boots in the mud, 1 foot forward, 1 back. Knees bent, faces down, she called. She tied 2 ropes across the plank tops to keep them from jumping. Jonah waded thigh deep where the water pushed hardest. He jammed a wedge into a gap and felt the flow try to steal it. He set his weight and did not let go. The wind took the words out of their mouths. So Wren spoke with her hands. Palm down meant hold. 2 fingers meant shift left. A circle in the air meant pass rocks. A gust tore the red rag from the pipe mark and flung it into the torrent. Ruth reached and missed. She swallowed grit and laughed once. We'll tie 2 rags next time, she said, voice raw. A board popped. The headgate dropped an inch. The water grabbed the opening like a thief finding a door. Wren slid on her knees, pressed her forearm to the plank and hooked the rope back over its peg. Breathe slow, she said to no one and everyone. Slow makes strong, Jonah's hat flew. He did not chase it. He leaned his shoulder into the bar so Ruth could hammer in a brace pin with a rock. The pin seated. The groan changed from panic to labor. A neighbor prayed, words snatched by the gale. The worst of the wall rolled over them. Day went brown, then nearly black. Dust hissed across the water in snakes. The windmill moaned. Wren's coat snapped like a flag and then lay heavy. She felt the rope cut her palm and welcomed the bite. Pain told her she was still tied to the work. Then light shifted. The air eased from a shove to a hand. Shadows returned. The storm moved on with pride. Ruth looked at the gate. It held. Water ran, not wild but sure. Neighbors sagged and grinned through mud masks. Jonah wiped his eyes and found Wren already checking knots like a mother with buttons after church. Good, she said. Now we watch for men who followed the wind. Mud still dripped from the boards when hoofbeats came quick along the rim. 3 riders showed black against the clearing sky, faces wrapped in bandanas, coats too clean for ranch hands. 1 pointed. 1 carried a sack that clinked like tools. The last held a bottle with a rag tail. Down, Wren said, calm as a gate latch. She slid to the bank and rested the Colt along her forearm. Jonah, speak first. Jonah stepped up where all could see him. Turn back, he called. Storm's done. Law isn't. The man with the bottle lit the rag. Flame ran bright in the gray light. He kicked his horse. Wren fired once at the ground before him. Dirt leapt. The horse shied, the rider rocked. The fire blinked and died in the water. Ruth's broom handle swung up like a pike. She did not need to use it. Mrs. Collier's oldest boy let out a rebel yell. The blacksmith threw a loop and caught the second rider's arm. The man swore, lost his seat, and kissed mud. He tried for his pocket. Wren was already there, toe on his wrist. "No knives," she said. "No trouble." The third rider wheeled to run. Jonah's lariat whispered and spoke. It caught the man's shoulders clean, pulled him sideways, and laid him down soft and fast. Town hands piled in. In a breath, it was done. Ruth crouched by the man from the mud and rolled him to his side so he could spit clay and breathe. She reached into his vest and pulled a chit stamped with the rail yard mark and a smear of blue wax. "Company meal ticket," she said. "Given yesterday," the man glared. "Doesn't mean anything." "It means a path," Wren said. "Sheriff will walk it to the door." They tied the two men with a clothesline and a church sash someone found at the bottom of a basket. Wren looked up at the sun, dragging itself higher. "Noon is near," she said. "Judge waits." Neighbors nodded. "We'll hold the gate," the blacksmith said. "We like the sound of water." Mrs. Collier's boys puffed up, proud mud statues. Ruth touched each cheek, leaving clean thumbprints. "Home after," she said. "Cake later if the oven behaves." Wren and Jonah took the prisoners on short leads and trotted for town. The wind at their backs smelled of wet dust and iron. On the porch of the jail, the clerk Fitch stood like a nail waiting for a hammer. "Walk easy," Wren told the riders. "You have a chance to tell the truth before the bell." They brought the two riders to the jail and handed the ropes to Sheriff Albee. Fitch, the clerk, stood stiff on the porch with his ledger pressed to his chest. His collar was too clean for a day like this. "Judge is ready," the sheriff said. He nodded at the prisoners. "They'll sit where I can see them and where the judge can hear them if he asks." Wren and Jonah crossed to the courthouse. The room was full but quiet. Judge Merritt sat straighter than he had in days. The crate lid with the maker's stamp leaned against the table. The scrap from the yard lay beside it. Ruth came in at a run, hair full of dust, eyes bright. "Gate holds," she said. Neighbors set a watch. The judge gave a tired smile. "Good, let us finish the paper part." He opened the license Wren had first laid down. "This document names Miss Wren Hale, the widow of Jonah Pike, by proxy," he read. "It was stamped while this court wrongly believed Mr. Pike dead. Today the court affirms he lives. The question is whether the license can stand." Fitch cleared his throat. "Sir, a proxy is void if the man lives. Simple." Wren turned. "Simple is not always honest," she said. "This paper kept thieves from taking a family's water while a son fought to return. The stamp was misused by those thieves. If you pull the shield too soon, they will use the gap." The judge folded his hands. "The law should stop harm, not cause it," he said. "Mr. Pike?" Jonah stepped forward. "I do not want a lie. I do want my land safe. If the license must stand till sunset to hold the line, I accept. After that, the truth should wear its proper name." Ruth lifted the oilskin note. "My father wrote this," she said. "Let her finish what I started. He chose Wren to carry our name until we could carry it ourselves again." Fitch shifted at the back. Blue wax stained his cuff. Wren saw it. She also saw the small brass key in his palm, half hidden. "Sheriff," she said without raising her voice, "the clerk has a key for something that wants opening." Albee moved fast. He took Fitch's wrist and the key dropped. It matched the jail cell padlock. From the window came Cray's voice, too smooth by half. "So near to the rail hour," he said, "and still you love chains." "Love justice more," the judge said. He signed a page with a hard stroke. "The court holds the proxy valid until sunset, for the sole purpose of protecting the homestead. At sunset we reconvene to dissolve it clean if both parties wish." Wren met Jonah's eyes. He nodded once. "We'll bring the last proof by then," she said. Wren, Jonah, and Sheriff Albee left the courthouse at a quick walk. The train whistle blew faintly from the east, thin as a thread. "We need the last proof before iron rolls in," Wren said. "Not paper. Metal and hands." They cut across the alley and reached the rail yard. The foreman met them halfway, hat in hand. The boy from earlier trailed him, eyes wide. "Storm shoved dust into everything," the foreman said. "But the stack with the bad stamp is still there." "We don't just need a stamp," Jonah said. We need where the pipe drinks. The boy tugged Wren's sleeve. Ma'am, there's a trap door under the platform by the tank, he whispered. Fitch had me sweep there. He said not to tell. They went to the platform. Wren knelt, found 2 bolts polished by use, and slid the trap free. Dark space opened, cool and damp. Inside lay a T-shaped joint wrapped in fresh tar, a valve wheel, and a short run of pipe the size of a man's arm. Mud still clung to the threads. Wren looked to the foreman. You know what this is, she said. I do, he said, face hard. That joint steals flow before the town gets it. That's a jail thing. Sheriff Albee crouched and held up the small brass tag wired to the valve. The maker's mark matched the crate lid. Walks like proof, he said. Talks like proof. The train whistle sounded closer. Wheels clicked on the far bridge. Men gathered at the yard fence, faces wary. Fitch stood near the office door, trying to be small. Cray watched from the jail window and smiled like he'd set a table. We need the town to see it work, Jonah said. He jogged to the pump handle and set his hands. Open the headgate more at the ranch, he called to no one, then caught himself. Ruth will have someone there. Wren pointed to the boy. Run to the arroyo, she said. Tell Ruth to raise 1 notch and watch the bank. Then wave your kerchief. The boy ran like a rabbit. Minutes felt like hours. Dust lifted at the far rim. A small figure waved a cloth like a white bird. Now, Wren said. Jonah spun the stolen valve half shut. The tank's gauge dropped a mark. Down in the arroyo, the surge eased at the same breath. The crowd saw both, gauge and distant shimmer, and murmured. Wren turned the valve back to full. The gauge rose. The arroyo brightened. The murmur became anger with the target. Albee stood. That's theft, you can see, he said. Foreman, you'll witness? I will, the foreman said. He looked at Fitch. And I won't carry your water no more. The town moved like a body that had found its breath again. Men rolled the stolen joint and valve onto a cart and pushed it to the courthouse steps. Sheriff Albee locked Fitch in the cell beside Cray. 2 keys, he said. 1 truth. The foreman wrote a witness line in the judge's hand, slow and neat, then shook his head as if sand were in his ears. No more of this, he muttered. Wren and Jonah walked back to the ranch at an easy pace. The wind had softened. The arroyo sang low, the sound of tin bowls rinsed after supper. Ruth waited at the gate with Mrs. Collier and the boys, all smiling like they had built the river themselves. Gate holds, Ruth said. We brace the weak side with willow. The bank will knit. Wren checked every knot again because it soothed her. Jonah fixed the barn hinge that always squealed and oiled the latch until it sighed. He set the water trough under the windmill spout. It filled with a steady thread. The old mare drank and blew bubbles, pleased. Neighbors left gifts without knocking. Eggs, a loaf wrapped in a towel, a small tin of salve for rope burns. The blacksmith's wife set a pie on the porch rail and said, For after the judge. The baker's girl chalked a crooked heart on the step, then rubbed it shyly with her shoe. Ruth tied her kerchief on the post like a flag that meant safe. When this is over, I'm starting school again, she said. Monday. Half slats, full bell. Full bell, Jonah echoed, and his voice made the words feel like lumber cut true. They ate bread and honey at the table. 1 cup, 3 spoons. Habit had become choice. Wren took off the borrowed black coat and folded it square. Under it, her shirt was mended in small, careful stitches. Jonah noticed the work and the patience in it. He set the colt on the mantel, grip turned to show the name. Your hands kept our name from slipping, he said. Wren met his eyes and did not look away. A name is a rope, she said. 2 hands hold it best. Afternoon leaned toward gold. The storm dust burned off the sky. Children ran past with sticks and shouted that the frogs had moved back into the ditch. Somewhere a fiddle tried a tune and found it. Sunset, Ruth reminded them quietly. We go together. Sunset laid a copper edge on the courthouse roof. People gathered again, quieter than morning, as if stepping into a church. Judge Merritt took his seat with his ledger open and his hand still. Sheriff Albee stood near the cells. Fitch stared at his boots. Cray held a smile that no longer fit his face. Wren, Jonah, and Ruth came up the steps together. Wren wore no veil now and carried no coat, only the colt in its cloth and the oilskin note in her pocket. Jonah's hat was brushed clean. Ruth's hair was braided tight, a schoolteacher's braid ready for Monday. The judge cleared his throat. "This morning we held a proxy marriage to guard a homestead while facts were set straight," he said. "We have since seen proof of water theft and bribery. We have affirmed that Jonah Pike lives. The town has witnessed the devices that turned his creek. Now, Miss Hale, Mr. Pike, do you wish the proxy to stand or to be dissolved?" Wren looked at Jonah. He looked back. Their answer matched. "Dissolve it," they said together. The judge nodded once slowly. He wrote 2 lines, then signed with a steady hand. "So ordered," he said. "The proxy is dissolved. The land remains with the Pikes by law and right. Charges against Mr. Cray and Mr. Fitch will go to circuit court with witness statements and evidence." He set the pen down as if setting down a weight. "Miss Hale, this court thanks you for your courage and plain dealing." Cray leaned toward the bars. "You've traded growth for mud and sentiment," he said softly. "2 months from now you'll beg for my depot." Ruth's voice was calm and knife-sharp. "2 months from now we'll be busy with lessons." Sheriff Albee tapped the keys at his belt. "Hush," he said to the cells. "You'll get your hour to talk where it counts." Wren lifted the wrapped colt, turned it to show the name on the grip, and set it on the table between her and Jonah. "Your father's gun belongs here," she said. "Not to make noise. To rest." Jonah placed his hand over hers, palm warm on cloth and steel. "So do you," he said. "If you want to stay, no paper. Just work, supper, fences, winter wood stacked straight." Silence held for a breath, not empty but full. Wren looked at Ruth's steady smile, at the wind picking up dust in a small, friendly swirl, at the faces in the doorway. She took a slow breath and felt her shoulders ease. "I'll stay," she said. The bell rang at the schoolhouse the next morning, not for sale, but for class. Ruth stood on the step with a slate tucked under her arm. Her braid was neat. Her smile was steady. Children came in 2s and 3s, boots muddy, eyes bright. Mrs. Collier's boys set a bucket by the door, proud of the water they helped save. Ruth lifted the rope and gave the bell one clean pull. All listening. Wren rose early at the ranch and walked the fence with Jonah. They fixed a wire and set a new post where the bank had slumped. The windmill turned easily now. Sun caught on the numbered blades and flashed a coat across the grass. Jonah stopped at the trough and refilled the cup. They shared it without speaking, 1 cup, 2 hands. At noon they carried the colt to a small box Jonah made from barn oak. Ruth wrote the word Pike on a card and set it inside with the oilskin note. They placed the box on the mantel. Wren pressed her palm to the lid. "Rest," she said. "The work is ours now." Neighbors drifted up the lane with tools to return and stories to trade. The blacksmith told how the gate had held like a mule. The baker's girl laughed at the frogs in the ditch. Sheriff Albee rode by and tipped 2 fingers light as a secret. Judge Merritt sent a message. The circuit docket would take the railman in due time. It felt like the weather was turning, slow but sure. In the evening, Jonah chopped wood while Wren stacked it. The rhythm was a song with few notes. Ruth came from town with chalk dust on her hands and a plan for benches. She set 3 spoons on the table and a cup beside them out of habit. Wren smiled and left it there. Some habits are vows. They ate stew thicker now. They spoke of winter feed and the best place for a new ash tree. After the dishes, they walked to the arroyo. Water talked to rocks in a low voice like family making plans. The wind picked up and turned the blades. Numbers faced the house in order, as if saying yes. Talk will travel, the land will listen, and folks will tell this story the way old fences lean, straight enough to last, bent only by time and pride. If this story gave you a calm breath, tap like so more folks find clean Western romances. Tell me your favorite moment. Windmill numbers, sunrise at the courthouse, or the storm at the headgate in the comments. And if you'd like more one-episode low-spice frontier love stories, hit subscribe and the bell.